His fearless actions and loyalty in battle made him a hero among the 22nd Transport Company.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 weird historical events that actually happened.
They assumed he was a keeper, bringing them food. Hundreds of rabbits began charging at the Emperor of the French.
For this list, we'll be going over the strangest and oddest anecdotes and figures from throughout history. If there's a bizarre historical story that we weirdly forgot about, share your favorites in the comments. Number 10. The Emu War. Australia has several strange historical events, but easily the most striking is the so-called Emu War. During the Great Depression, farmers in Western Australia were encouraged to grow wheat. Unfortunately, this attracted migrating emus. The large flightless birds devastated the crops and became a regular nuisance.
The farmers didn't trust the Minister of Agriculture though, so they approached the Minister of Defense instead, who more or less declared war on the birds.
To deal with the issue, a small group of soldiers armed with automatic weapons were employed to wipe out the encroaching animals.
The scouts of the advancing army have keen eyesight, and in order to get close to the main body, our lads have to do some real stalking, with the enemy watching events through their periscopes.
As far as animal culls go, it's one of the most extreme instances. During the operation, hundreds of emus were killed. However, the emu population endured. That's right, humans lost a war to birds.
While there were no human casualties, only 986 of the roughly 20,000 emus were killed, and 9,860 bullets had been used up.
Number 9. Kutayun, the undefeated wrestling woman.
What does a girl know of battle? What of your great-grandmothers who rode into war with Genghis Khan? To erase your doubts and ease your fears, I will wrestle the best of you.
Genghis Khan's descendants are innumerable, and plenty of them have made their mark on the world. One of the most interesting is Kutayun. The daughter of Kaidu, Kutayun was a warrior in her own right and assisted her father in his campaigns. She had many after her hand in marriage, but she insisted that whoever married her must first defeat her in a wrestling match.
You're not the butterfly I expected.
Kutayun wagered horses with her would-be suitors. It's said that although she eventually married, she was never defeated and had won thousands of horses in her lifetime.
You think much of yourself, Biamba. If I wanted you, I would have had you years ago.
Number 8. New Atlantis, founded by Hemingway's brother. While Ernest Hemingway's time in the Caribbean has been much documented and was of great interest to the FBI, his brother Lester also took interest in the waters south of the U.S. Lester founded a micronation in international waters off the coast of Jamaica. He created the country on board a 30-foot raft in 1964.
We built a raft.
A raft.
Look, don't say it like that, man. We need a little optimism here.
New Atlantis technically only constituted half of the raft, as he claimed the other half belongs to the United States. Briefly inhabited by Lester and a few others, he hoped to fund the operation through the sale of stamps and by attracting tourists. However, the micronation sank beneath the waves a few years after its founding. He probably jinxed it by naming it after Atlantis. Number 7. Anti-comet pills. Halley's Comet has been a frequent fixture of the night sky for thousands of years. However, it wasn't until the early parts of the last century that scientists were able to observe it closely. Unfortunately, this led to wild speculation on some astronomers' parts, particularly after cyanogen, a toxic gas, was discovered in the tail.
Flammarion, a French astronomer and early science fiction writer, took the news gravely. He concluded that the cyanogen could impregnate the atmosphere and possibly snuff out all life on the planet.
Panic over the comet led to con men selling things like anti-comet pills and umbrellas to protect them from deadly gas.
Gas masks flew off of shelves. It was reported that you could not find a tank of oxygen that you could purchase in Rome. The comet was accused of affecting the weather, of making people in Indiana sleepier than usual.
Naturally, scientists even then pointed out how ludicrous that is, and Halley's Comet passed without incident. But the snake oil salesman of the day still made a killing.
It is ironic that the panic over the comet of 1910 was really based on a better scientific understanding of what comets were and how they worked than we had ever had before.
Number 6. Napoleon Attacked by Rabbits. Napoleon Bonaparte was a brilliant military commander. While his final defeat was at Waterloo, his most humiliating one was against small, long-eared bunnies.
Well, that's no ordinary rabbit. That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on.
According to the story, in July 1807, Bonaparte arranged for a rabbit hunt. However, rather than wild animals, Napoleon's chief of staff elected to round up tame rabbits. Anywhere from several hundred to up to 3,000, so the story goes.
Even though he was a military man, he wasn't the greatest of shots.
And when the time came for the hunt to begin, instead of running away, the rabbits charged Napoleon and his men en masse, hoping for food and leaping and climbing all over them. The French emperor had to retreat to his carriage and make a hasty getaway.
Napoleon got back in his carriage, flinging rabbits out of his window as he went. Needless to say, he was not amused.
Number 5. The Polish army's enlisted bear. While transporting refugees west from Iran in 1942, the 22nd Artillery Supply Company of the Polish Army encountered an orphaned Syrian brown bear cub, which they subsequently adopted as a mascot.
The newly adopted bear left his old life to go on an adventure with Polish troopers in World War II.
Named Wojtek, this bear grew up traveling alongside soldiers, wrestling with them and imitating their behaviors, including enjoying beer and cigarettes.
Wojtek was initially fed condensed milk from a bottle. But as he grew, his tastes expanded to include, well, basically anything that was available.
When the ships that would take them to Italy denied him due to forbidding mascot animals, the 22nd enlisted Wojtek officially into the army as a private.
He was even given his own paycheck, rank, and serial number. This helped ensure his participation was recorded.
Wojtek was even promoted to corporal because he aided his comrades by moving artillery shells during the Battle of Monte Cassino. After the war, Wojtek retired from service, living the remainder of his life at Edinburgh Zoo in Scotland. Number 4. The father of tragedy's tragic/comic death. Aeschylus is often regarded as the progenitor of the Greek tragedy, since his few surviving works are the earliest examples known to modern scholars. Greek tragedies often feature characters whose deaths are ironic twists of fate. Aeschylus' own fate is certainly a twist, though it's more comic than tragic. When returning to Gela in Sicily, Aeschylus died outside the city. How? An eagle dropped a tortoise on his head. The bird mistook his bald head for a rock and tried to crack the reptile shell open by dropping it on him.
Yes. Splat! I was killed instantly.
Honestly, we're more surprised none of his peers wrote a play about it. Number 3. Straw Hat Riots. New Yorkers have gotten angry over some weird stuff, but hats is one of the strangest. In the early 20th century, it was considered a fashion faux pas for men to wear a straw boater hat after September 15th.
By the turn of the century, straw boater hats were considered an essential part of summer wear, but they were subject to the odd cultural device of fashion rules.
If they did, they were often subject to public ridicule or having their hats knocked off. When some enthusiastic kids started the tradition a few days early on some dock and factory workers, it sparked a series of riots that lasted over a week.
The workers fought back. The fighting turned into a brawl which stopped traffic on the Manhattan Bridge.
Mobs of youths destroying hats roamed the city. While there were thankfully no deaths, there were still an unfortunate number of people injured and arrested over hats.
25-year-old Harry Gerber had to be taken to Harlem Hospital after he was badly kicked and beaten while trying to fight off straw hat vandals.
America was in the midst of prohibition, so men were probably pretty angry already. Number 2. 1904's Crazy Olympic Marathon. To call the 1904 St. Louis Olympic Marathon a disaster would be an understatement of epic proportions. Of the 32 competitors, only 14 finished. This was largely due to organizer James E. Sullivan's insane belief that dehydration was good for the body, causing him to only have one water station in the nearly 25-mile race on dusty, unpaved roads in July.
The event organizers had thought it a wise idea to ask the support vehicles to drive a few meters in front of the runners throughout the race. The car wheels, of course, kicked up a tremendous cloud of dust.
But it gets crazier, because the racers' journeys are even more bizarre. First place hitched a ride in a car.
He jumped into one of the support vehicles at the side of the road and caught a lift for the next 11 miles.
Second place took rat poison as a performance enhancer and had to be carried across the finish line.
And it was commonly believed that in small doses, strychnine was a stimulant that enhanced athletes' performance.
The fourth finisher slept off stomach cramps during the race. It's a shame no one got it all on film. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. Pepsi had the world's 6th largest military.
Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
The ball game's over!
We couldn't make this stuff up if we tried. During the late 80s, the Soviet Union's love of Pepsi proved problematic for those in charge. Their initial agreement with the American company had expired, and their currency wouldn't be accepted. So they did a trade. 17 submarines and several other large naval vessels in exchange for $3 billion worth of Pepsi. While Pepsi soon sold their newfound fleet to a Swedish company who scrapped it, for a brief window, Pepsi had more military might than all but 5 countries on Earth. They could have turned their cola wars with Coca-Cola into a literal war. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.